iPhone 17 Pro Max versus iPhone 15 Pro Max. Should you make the upgrade? That is the aim of today's video. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Let's go ahead and talk about if the iPhone 17 Pro Max is worthy upgrade over the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So let's talk about very first thing, the design and the build changes here between both of them. You can see that camera plateau is pretty much an obvious change there if you're coming over from the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But when you look at the camera housing, that's pretty similar, although they did move the flash over here and the microphone hole over there, as well as the LiDAR camera over there. So definitely it's a pretty good change in terms of looks if you wanted something to look different. But in terms of design, I do think the 15 Pro Max actually still looks better. It's a cleaner titanium build. You let me know your thoughts down below. Some people might like the two-tone look more. I will say though that the cosmic orange definitely stands out way more than a titanium, natural titanium phone. Whether you like it or not, the bottom line is it stands out. There's no other way to slice that. But this phone does feel significantly heavier in the 17 Pro Max. We're looking at around 233 grams, although we did go up to a 6.9 with the 16 Pro Max. So this one is even heavier than that because that also retained titanium. So if you're used to the comfortable 6.7 inch iPhone 15 Pro Max at 221 grams, this one is going to feel a bit heavier. However, you know, it is a little bit smoother at the edges. Down here at the corners, I do have to state, as after owning this for a while, it does feel quite smooth there, but there's no denying it. This phone is rather thick and it's rather big and it's pretty darn noticeable. I will say though that the iPhone 15 Pro Max tends to feel a little bit sharper here at the corners to me. It does have flat edges and it does have the action button, but we don't have any camera control button. There is a 5G antenna band right there. They have the camera control button here, and we do have ourselves, that's not a chip, that was some dirt. People are gonna be like, look at that chip. No, but there's a 5G antenna up here. I'm not a fan of this. This just doesn't look right here, especially if you look on that angle. Not my favorite. But at the same time, you have camera control, so that's an upgrade in terms of a feature. But if you look here, the antenna lines on the iPhone 15 Pro Max are a little bit less visible as they are kind of integrated on the titanium frame. They do wrap a bit more around the body here, so they're a bit more noticeable here for the 17 Pro Max. So there's just a lot more going on for this phone. It's definitely a looker, but I think for a simple clean look, the 15 Pro Max was probably a simpler, more premium looking phone overall. So I would say if you're upgrading for the looks department, the design department, it's worth it if you want something that stands out, that's different, and you want cosmic orange. Or you want the silver or whatever, but you just want something that looks different, but you are going to sacrifice a bit of weight and size to hold in your hand, although it is smoother and it does retain heat much better than this phone over here. This one just, the heat is just out of control on the iPhone 15 Pro Max since the beginning. It has gotten better with some software updates, but they had to throttle it back. But sometimes I'll just be using my 15 Pro Max, downloading a couple of applications, and the phone gets warm. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's just, I don't know why this phone never just really did really good with heat. So let's talk about display changes. So the iPhone 17 Pro Max does have a 6.9 inch display. It is very similar in terms of the resolutions, the overall sharpness and detail to the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But the thing is that I don't like is that they didn't really change the size of dynamic island. So if you are looking for a change there, don't expect it because they're the exact same dynamic island. That's even similar and the same to the iPhone 14 Pro Max. What is noticeably different though is if you look closely, the bezels are definitely noticeably thicker on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. And it's crazy because when the iPhone 15 Pro Max came out, it was already pretty thin bezels. They do have the same aspect ratio, so if you look head on, they do have the same width basically, but the 17 Pro Max pushing a 6.9 definitely feels a bit bigger. When they stretch the bezels to make them thinner, now it just feels like you're using an even bigger phone, closer to like a 7-inch device. The anti-reflective coating is better on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. There's not really There's an oleophobic coating on the 15 Pro Max, but there's a true anti-reflective properties here now for this phone. So on angles, it should be a little bit less glare than the iPhone 15 Pro Max, but I think generally most consumers are not really going to notice a substantial difference between these two displays in terms of their actual qualities, just that you're getting a bigger panel. So if you do want a bigger panel and you want a brighter panel outdoors when triggered by sunlight, I do think go with the 17 Pro Max. It'll be worth it. But this is, to me, not a big enough upgrade to probably justify the change unless you just want a little bit more screen size, because the quality of the 15 Pro Max is still really darn good. So this is probably not the area that is you're getting a huge upgrade, but you are getting a little bit of an upgrade because it is still 0.2 inches larger. Now, where the iPhone 17 Pro Max really does shine over the iPhone 15 Pro Max is in performance. It has 12 gig of RAM versus 8 gig of RAM on the right. It also does have a higher clock speed, but it has way better thermal efficiency, and it makes this phone a powerhouse beast by comparison. The iPhone 15 Pro Max was also a powerhouse, and I think for most daily tasks, I don't think anybody's going to notice a substantial difference, but you will notice a substantial difference when you start popping open some games and you start playing things on the 15 Pro Max and you realize, why is this phone so toasty on the back? Because it definitely gets warmer. It also doesn't sustain its performance as well as the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So, but again, you're going to have to do the things that really push this phone to those limits for that to really make it a big deal. So really, I got to say that the iPhone 15 Pro Max is definitely going to be the one to go with, or the 17 Pro Max, the one to upgrade if you're having an issue with heat and stuff like that. But other than that, I do think that the 15 Pro Max day to day tends to still perform like a top tier phone that it is. It really does. But the thing is they both do have 6-core GPUs. It's kind of, think of it like they're both powerful, but the iPhone 17 Pro Max refines it a bit, gives it a higher clock speed, gives it a more sustained performance. It's basically like what the 15 Pro Max should have been when it came out, but they didn't know that the heat was going to be a deal. So then we had to fix those quirks that happened with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So I think from a performance and chip perspective, the iPhone 17 Pro Max is a definite upgrade worthy if you did want to do the upgrade and you wanted better thermals and performance. This is definitely worth it over the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The next area that is significantly worth it to do the upgrade is going to be the battery department. So we do have the iPhone 17 Pro Max giving us incredible battery life. It is over 5,000 milliamps, 5,088 to be exact here, and the eSIM model. You can get 4823 on the SIM card model, but I wouldn't go with that one, as that one is going to give you slightly less. But it's still going to be better than the older iPhones. And these newer 17 Pro Maxes, they just last and last. These are true powerhouse devices for the day-to-day real world use. Now, the charging is also relatively quick if you're using the proper charger, but it's not too much different, just a little bit better than the iPhone 15 Pro Max, about 10 watts on wireless. I just noticed it to be much longer lasting than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The iPhone 15 Pro Max was not bad whatsoever. It was my full day phone. When it was out, you could see I have over 117 cycles on this phone. But the 15 Pro, that one was not great. But the 15 Pro Max was one of the better ones of the 15 lineups. In the actual battery life is 4441 milliamp hours, so it was solid. But this is 13 Pro Max like battery on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So if you were deciding I want to upgrade my 15 Pro Max because I want better battery life, that is a 100% recommendation, and that's as a user of both of these. This just feels like the legendary 13 Pro Max, and for that reason alone, I gotta say, if you're coming over here and you're gonna do this upgrade, this should be maybe like top priorities of why you're considering even doing this. So let's discuss the cameras. If you're coming to the iPhone 17 Pro Max from the 15 Pro Max, here's the biggest upgrade, that 8x zoom, and also the ability to have the center stage camera on the front. And so you can see right there, ultra wide angle. Let's go ahead and go over here to the iPhone over here. You can do 5x, it's pretty good, but I notice even at that 5x, it gets a little bit noisier. 25x, On the iPhone 17 Pro Max, you can go all the way up to 40x, which is incredibly long zoom for an iPhone. They used to never really reach these kind of distances. So this truly feels like the true zoom monster finally on this phone. And also with that center stage camera, it is just a much more usable camera system, and definitely more pro. It also has the ProRes support. This also does have really good cameras, but it has two 12 megapixels on the rear. So really it's just the main sensor that is the really good one on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But the front facing camera is their 12 megapixel they've been using a long time. This is going to feel pretty standard now after seeing the iPhone 17 Pro Maxes make their launch. And this can't do the 4K 120 either. So the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I think, is a worthy jump in camera department. If you take a lot of videos and photos, especially at the pro level content creation, or even take a lot of group photos with that front facing camera, this is actually a good change. Even though you might say, well, that phone's only a couple years old, Nick, but still, the cameras here actually make a usable difference in the real world. And also with the camera control, that's also a usability difference. So if I go ahead and take that photo, zoom in, double click right there on them haptics to switch between styles, tones, this whole camera experience feels upgraded over it. So it is definitely noticeable. I want to switch gears to talking about the Apple Intelligence on board here in Siri. So you can see on the 17 Pro Max, it still says beta. And Apple's intelligence wasn't really where they wanted it to be when it came out, although we expected it to be. So it was kind of a little bit of a letdown with the iPhone 16 series. But I am liking the visual intelligence over here. So if we go ahead and hold this down, you can ask things, search things. That's a good look for this phone, but you can do it here as well on the 15 Pro Max, but you have to do it from over here. You got to click like that to go ahead and use it. Not a big deal, but I do like the camera control lets you do it on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But from an AI perspective, I don't feel like Apple Intelligence is really ready for prime time. I mean, it says it right there, beta. It's just not as good as what we're seeing on the Android side of things right now. But you can still use chat bots on both of them. So I think from an AI perspective, it's not really that big of a deal going to the iPhone 17 Pro Max at this point. 15 Pro Max still supports Apple Intelligence. So that's not going to be one I'm going to say you have to go get this phone for some AI stuff, because you can do the same stuff on the 15 Pro Max. And when it comes to software, it's also probably not worth it when it comes to software, unless you do want super smooth software out of the gate. The 15 Pro Max and other older iPhones aren't running it as optimized, I feel like, as the 17 Pro Max is right now. But give a few dot releases and the iPhone 15 Pro Max is going to catch right up. But right now, I do feel like it runs a bit better. You can see how these apps take a while to load. I feel like it does run a bit better on the newer phone, but it's the same software experience. So coming over here from the 15 Pro Max, unless you didn't do the upgrade, is going to feel essentially no different. Same control center, same options, maybe a couple different camera buttons and options, but other than that, it's the same software support. Although if you want longer software support, you could do the upgrade, but you still got several years left on the 15 Pro Max. So software wise, unless you're not willing to wait for a dot release to get your iPhone even better than it is now, I do think the 17 Pro Max is not worth it, because you still got like 3 years left or so on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So one of the areas that is actually worth doing the upgrade, and people don't discuss this too much in a lot of reviews though, is network performance, phone calls, and audio. So essentially faster Bluetooth connections for audio on here. We also do have better network performance, better 5G performance, better Wi-Fi performance. Just basically the connectivity stuff is better. It also does have louder speakers on the 17 Pro Max, so your actual phone calls through speaker will be a few decibels louder. It's not substantial, but it is noticeable. It's something just to note. That the phone itself as an actual phone actually got better in those areas of reliability and connectivity. So I do feel like as a phone, it's a better phone. And of course, with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, one of those phones that warms up, if you're not using a case, even if you are using a case, sometimes it seeps through. The 15 Pro Max can become a little bit uncomfortable when it does warm up. That's my only issue with the titanium iPhone over there. But yeah, price and storage though, you can actually cop yourself a 15 Pro Max right now for right around 650 to 750, depending on storage tiers. You could go around 800, but you can get yourself a Max phone at this price point of like a base 17. But some would argue the base 17 is better value than this now. But the iPhone 17 Pro Max, if you're wondering, should you upgrade and you have a 15 Pro Max, the answer is I would say, if you want way better battery and thermal efficiency, it's a 100% go. But if you just think that you're going to get this phone, it's going to feel like a way different experience, I would say no. It's just a better overall battery life, better overall camera. If you actually use zoom and you actually use a front-facing camera a lot, it feels like a better experience. But in some ways, the 15 Pro Max still feels nicer. It's sleeker, it's lighter, it's easier to hold because it's not 6.9, it's 6.7, and it still works beautifully well. And so you're definitely not behind at all on an iPhone 15 Pro Max. But I do think there is enough of a jumps on the iPhone 17 Pro Max to justify it if it is something you're looking for. So I hope that helped you make a decision if you wanted to go ahead and consider an upgrade. If not, stay tuned. I still will be covering the 15 Pro Max as the years go on here. We're going to stay covering this one, keep the coverage coming. Also, we'll continue on with the 17 Pro Max and further comparisons, so be subscribed for that. I will catch you all in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop those down below in the comments. I'd love to hear what you got to say. Also, people in the community will share their thoughts as well, maybe help you out if you're having an issue or you just want to discuss iPhone. Let's do it. I'll catch you on the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.